Scott Loewe, founder, managing partner of Proventus, other companies in healthcare.
Erik Bakich, head baseball coach at Clemson University, passionate about unlocking human potential. Got connected with Scott through our children. Our girls were in class together at St. Francis Catholic School in Ann Arbor, and quickly formed a very fast family friendship, just like-minded in many ways, but especially in just wanting to be in the space of helping people be at their best and unlock whatever it is that they're missing to be at their best, whatever that potential is. And hearing about Proventus and some of his other companies dedicated in this space, I was just fascinated and thought, we need this in college baseball.
Yeah. It's surreal to be here. And it's just, my takeaway from today already is your impatience around like expectations, because you've literally just got here and you've already won conference championship, 17 games in a row. Last year, you ranked second in the country this year. I think things are heading in the right direction. But yeah, what was fascinating to me with Erik, again, my first impression was, hey, I have this idea of this technology that we use in orthopedics and we want to transition into sports. Will you come take a look at it? Thought he was doing it more so as a favor, but it was genuinely interested, came by and really took the time to learn more about it and understand how it could help certainly his team, but athletes in general. And I was coming from the mindset of recovery from dramatic injury, surgery. And of course, Erik is looking at it through performance. And so the first thing was like, how can I help my athletes perform better? And there's a reason why the Southern schools do better at baseball than the Northern. When college baseball starts, it's February, right? It's freezing. So the first thing he says, that thing's heat. Like, that would be amazing for our pitchers. We should put it in the dugout. I'm like, can you do that? I guess we can do that. And so, yeah, we did that. Yeah.
Years.
Yeah. So just to hear him think about, technology as performance enhancement versus just, functional recovery. And I think, we're certainly trying to do both. The other thing that struck me and I'm anxious to talk more about is just the attention to detail. I think the takeaway from our initial discussion is like down to your pitcher's ankle, pronation, supination. I think that's a word. What do you think sets your programs apart from, there's probably numerous things, but from a detail perspective?
Yeah, I dive into this a lot, and I always try to oversimplify it just with the phrase brain, body, ball. And everybody in college sports seems to be overly enamored with the ball. So in baseball, we have a million ways to capture what the ball is doing. It's hard-mounted Doppler radar system called TrackMan that measures like a million different things that the ball does when it leaves a pitcher's hand or leaves a hitter's bat. And everybody is chasing improving these ball flight metrics. Whether you hit it or pitch it, you want the ball to do better things because we're all judged on what the ball does, and players get opportunities based on what they can make the ball do. In order to make the ball do better things, you have to improve your body. And in order to improve your body, a lot of times it gets centered to the neck up type stuff. And there's so many athletes that, in training, they can do amazing things, whether it's pitching or hitting a ball, their bodies may be strong and fast and powerful, but it's their mind that holds them back, limits them, doesn't allow them to play at the top of their game or reach their potential. So we take this three-pronged approach, and instead of just focusing on ball, we have a whole system for how we can improve and unlock the body. The strength coach that we have is one of the best in the world at this, who we'll talk to later, and Rick Franzblau. And then where I feel like my best service and niche for Clemson, and just really for really just coaching in general. Coach is the title, but unlocking human potential is the thing. That's what gets me out of bed every day, winds my clock. I get fired up about that. And I see the biggest opportunities for growth in unlocking somebody from the neck up, between the ears. And what happens when you take an athlete and they become confident. And even if they're a little bit limited with what they can do with the ball, or a little bit undersized or a little bit undertooled, the power of the mind is the most powerful thing. And so it's the combination of all of it, but really where I spend the majority of my time is the brain and their mindset and their mental skills.
It's amazing. That's the first I've heard a coach talk about where you spend the most time and where you get the most energy from. And I remember you saying too, and a lot of people say this, and a lot of this content I want to translate to business, because that's really my world. And as a business leader and owner, I'm always trying to get the best culture, which is a cliche, I think. We're trying to really hone in on our purpose, which I think it's easier to identify in sports, a purpose, because it's winning and losing typically. But I hear the term bought in, and that's where obviously you're starting, at a different, for a different team and a year and a half in. But that's what you said right on. You're just like, we have great kids and they're bought in. How do you define bought in?
Yeah, you're right. Culture is a buzzword. It's one of those words that everybody talks about, but can't always frame how to make it better. So the way we say it here is we're in the never-ending process of building our culture. A culture is something at Michigan, it took every minute of 10 years to get it the way it was, and we're still building it at Clemson, but you have to shrink it down to every day. And what we do every day is create an environment every day. So we have a training environment on the field, we have a classroom environment off the field, and we try to create an environment where you can reduce it down to simple behaviors that these players are going to follow, and we call them standards. So we don't have rules. If we had a team rule, it would be just don't embarrass us. But we have standards, and they're just standards of performance. And if you take a student athlete, they're not just student athletes just when we play games, but they're student athletes in the classroom and in the community, and in training, and in games. But there needs to be a shared mindset and a shared language that goes with that. So first meeting, day 1, August, we'll hand them a standard sheet and just say, these are the behaviors that we think create a daily environment that over time will build this culture, but the culture also drives these behaviors. And so it all comes down to the decisions and choices they're making on a daily basis. But this is where coaches can provide some framework of how to operate inside of a program, and everybody knows what the expectation is. And then it's easier to buy into that when there's zero ambiguity of what this is about and what we stand for.
I love that. I had a business coach, that worked with our company, and he would call it, instead of standards, he'd use principles over rules. And he showed an example of a state park that had like 50 rules. Don't do this, don't do that, don't. And then he had another example, it was actually in northern Michigan, a park that said one thing: leave it better than you found it. And so that to me embodies principles or standards over rules, and why rules drive me crazy. And people don't need to be told everything what to do. So there's two things I'm curious about. One is, this was a bad teams, nobody leads. Average teams, the coaches lead, but great teams, the players lead. So how, in terms of leadership from the players, what are the expectations there, and how do you cultivate that? Is that something that, is you as a coaching staff try to be intentional about? Does that because of the framework you put in place, it hopefully happens naturally, a combination?
Yeah. So again, this gets back to some of our shared language and some of our classroom curriculum. Every day we meet in a classroom and go over stuff like this. So we believe here there are no bad teams, there's only bad leaders. Leaders create more leaders. And so we have a phrase called point the thumb. And instead of in today's world where when bad things happen, everybody's wanting to place blame, we go the opposite way. And if a kid screws something up, like let's say a freshman, doesn't do something he was supposed to do. Well, I would look at it upon myself that I didn't explain that very well, because clearly he should have known, but that's my fault for not explaining it better. The seniors or the captains would point the thumb and say, we should have been more clear as we're communicating the standards to these younger guys. And then the younger guy would point the thumb and say, I should have got clarification and double checked, triple checked. And so if everybody has the point the thumb mentality, then everybody takes ownership for their mistakes instead of playing the blame game, which happens most of the time.
How do you navigate? I think it's changed even more, like within the last 3 years in college athletics, NIL. So individualism and letting guys be themselves versus upstaging the team. How do you guys navigate that?
So this is such a bigger topic, but we live, it's good. We live in a world where our younger generation is the most photographed generation of any generation we've ever had. And some of it's needed for recruitment, for NIL, for athletic opportunities. They need to be able to...
When you played high school baseball, how much footage?
Well, there were no cell phones, so cell phones weren't invented yet. So if you wanted a phone, it was like, hello? Hey, yeah, I can't talk right now. I got to go. The phone was this big. But what the unintended consequence of that is, because you've got a younger generation that's constantly taking photos of themselves, the unintended consequence is this self-centered generation of, look at me, look what I'm doing. And then social media becomes everybody's personal highlight reel, which then fuels the FOMO generation. Because even if a person is having a great day, bad day, you look online and it looks like it's the greatest day ever. And so you get a lot of players, a lot of student athletes coming in with this mentality of, serve it up. What's in it for me? What can I get? And so one of the things we do in meeting number 1 is we call it shift the target. And instead of the target being squarely on you, shift the target and put it on the person over here and put it on the person over there, and start thinking in terms of, instead of thinking, what can I get? Start thinking of, how can I give? And it goes back to one of the best classroom curriculum sessions we do is called Levels of Happiness. And level 1 of happiness, which is the most superficial level, are the sensory change levels of happiness. And this is where food and drugs and alcohol and video games and gambling and things that make you feel good in the moment, where addictions are also born. This is the most superficial level of happiness because it's the most fleeting. Level 2, which is where a lot of the athletes in younger generation live, is called ego comparison. And this is where they're chasing all the things that they can get. And this is trophies, and this is bonus money, and this is awards, and this is accolades, and this is status, whether it be status on social media or just status, how they're perceived by their peers. And I'm not saying getting bonus money and awards and accolades are bad. I'm just saying it's not as deep of a level of happiness, because you're always comparing what you got to what someone else got, and then it becomes not as good. Even though it may be good, when you're comparing it to somebody else, then you're chasing something. And level three is what we call contributive. And this is a much deeper level of happiness, because instead of what can I get, it's what can I give. And this is where your philanthropic heart comes in. And this is where your community service hours come in. And this is where our visits to children's hospitals and the, reading to children in schools, or visiting a senior citizen center, or just doing things for other people. And it's like you can almost see the light bulb go off with a lot of our athletes. They get so much gratitude and satisfaction and joy out of doing that. It's just this feeling, and they see it and they understand that, wow, you're totally uplifting someone else, but the benefit you get from that as well is huge. And it's a crazy thing, because focusing on level 3 and all the things you can contribute and all the ways you can give, all the things in level 2 follow. You get those as well. Those just come to you. And then we do a even deeper level. Level 4 is, more purpose-driven. What's your why? Why do you play? And we'll have the kids fill out, why do they play baseball? Why do they start playing baseball? And the answers are not the status and the awards and the accolades and the money. It's not the things that they're chasing now in level 2. It's because they love baseball, because they love competing for their family, because they're friends, because it's fun. And it's more putting all their energy in levels 3 and 4, and then watching how that is true happiness, and how a lot of these kids will get all the things, all the benefits of level 2 by putting their energy on level 3 and 4. And I'll just say one more thing about this, because this is actually so true. But when kids attach happiness, or put happiness on the other side of success, I guess when people put happiness on the other side of success, we never get there, because we always move the target. So in other words, if a high school kid says, you know what, if I can start on varsity, I'll be happy. Well, he works his butt off and he's a starter on varsity and he's happy. But then he's not happy, because now he needs a college scholarship. So changes the target. Well, now he gets a college scholarship and he has the party and he's pumped and he's happy. But then he gets to college and now he's not happy anymore, because now he needs to be a starter in college. And so he works his butt off and he becomes a starter in college and he's happy. But then he's not happy, because now I need to get drafted. Well, he works hard, gets drafted, happy, draft party, the whole thing. Gets in the minor leagues, he's not happy anymore. Now he needs to be a big leaguer. And you just see how this cycle goes, and you can easily apply it to sport, but you can apply it to business, you can apply it to anything. And so we talk a lot about, instead of putting happiness on the other side of success, put it before and let success follow. And so this is why we do what we do in the classroom with perspective posters and gratitude statements, and working on breathing, visualization, and self-talk, and all the down regulators, and all the things that are the things that drop cortisol and get good chemicals up, bad chemicals down, and get these kids in a totally different mental space, to where they can start thinking of themselves as not student athletes that is looking at Clemson or their college as this stepping stone to the next thing, but the place where they can totally immerse themselves into an environment, have a shared experience with who will be their best friends for the rest of their life, and find happiness and joy there. And then the success of the team will follow, and they will be genuinely happy, whether they may not be as happy as if they're the starters that are making the team win, but there will be a level of happiness knowing that their friends are doing well and they're part of something bigger than themselves.
It's amazing. If you can get that through to young people, because adults, like human beings, in my life, I can even look at like destinations and the goal, and I'm not, satisfied until this is met, until this is met, until this is met. And it's like almost a calming feeling when you understand, like, I love the grind. I love the journey because it will never stop. And I've seen older people that couldn't wait to retire. They lose their purpose. What happens? They like literally die. So yeah. And does life get better than college? First of all, in college, playing college sports, like it does not get better, whatever role you're playing. So other topic I'm interested in that probably can correlate to career and business. Sales really goes, I call it salespeople, beautiful losers. That's why most of your elite athletes aren't great salespeople because they haven't been told no a lot in their life. Good salespeople want to get, the more no's you're going to get, the more, success you're going to have because you're going to get yeses as well. Baseball is a sport where you fail the most, right? Like that's an adage everyone talks about. Like if you're 30% hitting, you're in the Hall of Fame, maybe. Like, so how do you work with young people on, there's a bad call or, they have a bad luck. Like sometimes you have a great swing and it results in a 300-foot out, right? Like, how do you work with young people on resetting and overcoming?
Yeah. Well, I think for a lot of it, it's just how you frame stress, right? And we frame it as good. Like we look forward to the adversity because we know it's coming. We know we chose a sport where the harder you try, the worse it gets. And our sport is filled with all these bouts of adversity along the way with so many uncontrollables that whether it be umpires or weather or fans or whatever. So you have to embrace it as this is good because this is an opportunity to learn and grow and get better. And the knockdowns, when you get knocked down, the getting back up, that is all creating the identity of the team that's part of that journey of what that team will be. And that whole creating the identity thing happens all along the way. But the embracing the adversity is part of it and how we frame it. So we use Jocko Willink. I love Jocko Willink. I love his good extreme ownership, the point the thumb, but the way he just says good to any bad things that happen, I think is such a good lesson for college kids. And then in terms of, the mindset around that, it's funny you talk about sales and no. We have shirts, and I think I'm wearing mine. Yeah, it says, "Go for no." So this is I don't know where I got this, some online thing, but the guy talks about how he was a sales rep at a men's clothing store, struggling. His district manager's in. He needs to make a good sale. He gets a well-to-do businessman who comes in and says, I need a new wardrobe. The young salesman's like, sweet. Well, how about a black suit? Yeah, I'll take it. Okay, we need a black belt. All right, I'll take it. I need black shoes. Yeah, I'll take it. All right, you need these shirts. How about these 2 shirts? Yeah, I'll take it. How about these 3 ties? Yeah, I'll take it. And he's like, well, you may be interested in a Navy suit. Yeah, okay, I'll take the Navy suit. Well, you want the brown belt. Okay, brown shoes. Okay, 2 shirts. Okay, 4 ties. So it racks up like $1,100 or whatever worth of sales. And the young salesman's like pumping his chest, thinking he did great, checks him out like this is a huge sale. And, kind of saddles up next to the district manager and he's like, it's a great sale, $1,100. Good job. Guy got one question for you. Young salesman's like, yeah, what? What do you say no to? Nothing. He goes, well, how do you know you're done shopping? And so I talk to that with our players all the time of you got to go for the no. We made a t-shirt out of it. So instead of what you perceive as a limit, this artificial limit, push your limits. Go for it. Push past it. Take a chance. Why? If you're going to make an error, don't leave it short. If you're going to throw it, don't goose it over there. Chuck it chuck it over the stadium. Let it rip. But it's all part of this idea of playing mentally free. So when you talk about overcoming the inherent adversity that's going to happen throughout the course of sport, if you're competing against your own perceived limitations, then you're going to be at a severe disadvantage. If you can play mentally free and just say, screw it, whatever happens, happens, and take the shot and go for it, take the risk, that's a great way to live life. So we talk all the time about don't just settle for the easy yes, go for the no. Push your limits, take a chance, push your boundaries, see what happens.
You crush two things there in business. Also, it's creating a culture that I strive for with our people is a risk-taking environment and making mistakes. So a lot of people are playing defense, and they really want to play it safe and they don't want to make the mistake, but then no growth happens and, you're just stuck. So that's awesome. Go for no. What do you say no to?
We talk about that all the time.
20 units? I thought we were talking about 10. Maybe you didn't get a no yet. No.
But we talk about the field as the playground, right? And as kids, it's almost like we train in these parameters, this restrictive mindset that we have to conform to. But as a kid on the playground, when it's, mommy watch me, daddy watch this, and you just freaking go for it, right? You're not thinking about your mechanics on the swing. You just want to go as high and as far and as fast. The same thing with the jungle gym and the bars, and there's no limits. There's no restrictions. You're just mentally free. And so it's this idea of, can you recreate your 10-year-old self, the kid that talked about loving to compete, loving baseball, loving having fun? Can you recreate that mindset in competitive sport or in sales or in business, where you're not afraid to, screw it, go for it. Whatever happens, happens, but feel free to make mistakes.
Yeah, the creativity happens at that point. That's where I see people come up with the best ideas and figure out a path that they otherwise would have seen just a door in their way. Oh, this has been great. And I'm looking forward to talking to your strength coach. From everything I gather, just that, I'm around teams, obviously living in Ann Arbor, close with the University of Michigan football team, Coach Harbaugh actually paid, the salary of Coach Herbert, which was his strength coach, was 7 figures, and he took him to the Chargers. So I think that tells you how important he thought, that particular coach was. Talk to me just about, the relationship you have with strength conditioning, how that relates to recovery and keeping athletes. Basically you're getting them as kids in college. Talk about this big kids nowadays. But then how do you, they're, not just their bodies transform, their minds transform. And then, baseball's a grind too. So keeping them ready.
So this is interesting. 2018, I got introduced to the Titleist Performance Institute and went down all the rabbit holes you could possibly go down with that over the course of the next few years. And in learning the golf world, there's no owners and nobody owns a professional golfer. So they spend their money in R&D. And so the development of, or let me say this, the performance triangle, and you put the golfer in the middle, and you've got the golf coach, you've got the medical professional, and the strength coach. You have a connected triangle of performance with the golfer centered in the middle, and all 3 points are communicating effectively. And in baseball, you have the coaching staff, you have the trainers and the medical staff, and you have the strength staff are all in individual silos and don't talk. And so you have a strength coach who doesn't know what the medical professional is doing, who doesn't know what's happening in the practice or training, and everyone's trying to get the athlete in the middle better. And so we have kind of adopted that concept of this performance triangle where there's constant communication. So it's weekly meetings with our strength coach, our medical team, and our coaching staff, and I feel like we're in a good space of understanding how to enhance performance, whether that be performance on the field or getting the player back to performance, because the best ability is availability. And so having that connection between the three of us is step one. And there's so many that miss the boat completely on just having cohesion in those three areas.
I've seen that firsthand, just being in the orthopedic space and medical field, and now the last 3 years working with athletes, and particular college athletes, given the rapid changes that's happening with NIL, and kind of like they're in this limbo, or they're college athletes, they're pro athletes. There's a lot of people in their camp now, agents, and so when there's injuries, it's like diagnosis issues, and there's not that cohesion. That cohesion, I think, is actually going the wrong direction, especially when it comes to, certainly major injuries to just mild injuries. And, it's like a lot of people chirping in their ears. So if you're getting that right, I think, you're miles ahead as well. Okay, just a couple more questions. How would you define success this year?
Same definition of success every year is kind of a version of John Wooden's definition of success. We just talk about it as, did you reach your potential, and did the team reach its potential? And if you can say yes to that, that's success. If that's the potential of this team, which I don't see why it couldn't be, but that's sometimes there's a little bit of luck involved, but in terms of teams who get hot at the end, because it's not the best teams who go to that make their runs, it's the teams that are playing the best. And I'm a firm believer in you have to earn the opportunity to get hot. And you earn the opportunity to get hot by all the days, weeks, and months leading up to the postseason. You can't just get to the postseason and think the switch just flips. And it may seem like that for some teams, but what people don't see is what happened in August and September and October, November, December, January, all the days leading up to where the team does have a very strong foundation that's underneath them and can feel like, all right, it's a postseason, let's be mentally free. The team that plays the best is the team that's going to be themselves and go out and get it. Feel free to make mistakes, almost have that house money feeling. And it's hard. It's hard when you have all those external things you just referenced with people in their ear, and now you put money, attach money to it. There can be a lot of clutter. And when you have clutter, it's the opposite of mental freedom. And if we want to play our best, we need to be mentally free.
Last thing we talked about, and this is, controlling the uncontrollables, I think, in terms of health. I'll bring it back selfishly.
Yeah, we were talking about Proventus, right?
I know, it's inevitable. Some major injuries, most are going to be something they can play through. My experience, at least in sports, is in terms of introducing a new technology, has been fascinating because we work with probably 2,500 orthopedic surgeons across the country, and a lot of them are team physicians. And we thought naively, we were going to walk in and talk to our friends that are the orthopedic surgeons, and they're going to prescribe cold heat contrast therapy. And we found out very quickly, and now understanding the space and the landscape and how that triangle should work, that the athletic trainers and strength staff actually are the ones that work most closely with the players. Obviously, if there's a need for surgery, the orthopedist will step in. So it's been refreshing to work with people that are that hands-on in terms of everyday and performance, and down to just the functional recovery, The athletic trainers wear a ton of different hats. They're physical therapists. They're, taping ankles. They're, providing modalities. And so we've seen the technology do well in the athletic training room, but my vision is to go beyond the training room because, there's only so many trainers, per, football team. There's maybe 7, 8, 9 for 100 players. Baseball, 1 or 2. And so we want to be an extension of that training staff. And so we look at recovery as a service versus a product. Now, we certainly want to have the best technology. And that was another eye-opening thing for us. So, we got feedback from about 100 teams, athletic training teams. And, they wanted, they all have opinions, right? They wanted to get colder. They wanted to get hotter. They wanted to switch from cold to heat faster. They wanted to squeeze more. And so we took it as a challenge. And this is Proventus 2.0 that I think accomplished what they were asking for. And I think, though, our competitive advantage is beyond the technology, and it's in the service around getting athletes what they need around the clock. So that competitive advantage in terms of even while they sleep to in the morning before they get to the facility or at night, when they're winding down, they can get therapy. And so, we talked earlier about we're just introducing this lease model, so every athlete can have what they need at a very palatable cost structure. And just like lease a car, it's guaranteed to work. It's guaranteed to have service when you need it. So we're anxious to launch that model and certainly excited to work with some of your players that, are playing through stuff. When you hear a guy playing through a labrum tear, and just can imagine like the in-between times. And, every player is probably feeling something at this point in the year. So,
well, you said it. There's only one athletic trainer who has a couple of helpers, but the training room's not carte blanche 24/7 key card access. Players going in help themselves, some self-service. Like that's a facility that has restricted hours under medical professional supervision. And what you've done is you have created an athletic trainer disguised as a high-tech unit to do treatment around the clock for these guys when the training room may only be open from 10 to 2. Now they have it 24/7, and they can take Proventus with them because everybody knows compression therapy is super important. Everybody knows contrast therapy is super important. But how many things exist in the marketplace right now that do compression contrast therapy with the push of a button and is a portable thing a kid can carry around and take home with them at any time? I mean, we've gone from saran wrapping bags of ice to having some units where you got to literally shovel. It's like shoveling snow back in the Ann Arbor days. You got to shovel ice into the thing to make it work, to maybe something only does heat compression, but your unit does it all. And you have a business model where the school can purchase the unit through a leasing option. So for all those colleges out there that maybe aren't ready to make a $10,000 commitment or whatever you're selling them for commitment, but can do the lease option, it is the best of all worlds and a great situation. And yeah, I'm excited that Clemson Baseball already has 3 of them, and we're going to be leasing a few more, but I'm most excited for our players who get to use them and get to use them outside of the training room.
Yeah.